Hi all. We are going to read from the third canto entitled The Status Quo. We are going to read from the chapter 5, fifth chapter, Vidura Talks with Maitreya, and we are on text 26. Is that correct? Yeah. Let's do some invocation. You can repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very midst of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, and to Nara Narayan, which is the supremest human being, and to the goddess of learning, the goddess of learning, Sarasvati, and unto the author, Srila Vyasadeva. Hare Krishna. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto entitled The Status Quo, chapter 5 entitled Vidura Talks with Maitreya, and we are on text 26. We do one Sanskrit word at a time. Kala, Vitya, Tu, Mayayam, Gunamayam, Adoksaja, Purushena, Atmabhutaena, Viryam, Adata, Viryavam, Kalavrityatu Mayayam, Gunamayam Adoksajaha, Purushenatma Bhutena, Viryam Adata Viryavan, Kalavrityatu Mayayam, Gunamayam Adoksajaha, Purushenatma Bhutena, Viryam Adata Viryavan, Kalavrityatu Mayayam, Gunamayam Adoksajaha, Purushenatma Bhutena, Viryam Adata Viryavan,
Kalavrityatu
Mayayam,
Gunamayam Adhokshaja Pushenatma Bhutena Viryam Adata
Viryavan, Kalavrityatu Mayayam, Gunamayam Adoksajaha, Purushenatma Bhutena, Viryam adata viryavam. Someone online would like to chant? Christy?
Kalavichatu mayayam.
Kalavrityatu mayayam.
Gunamayam adhoksajaha.
Gunamayam adoksajaha.
Purusinatma bhutina.
Purushanatma bhutena.
Viryamadata viryavan.
Viryam adata viryavan. Someone else would like to chant? Okay, we can go to a word for one translation. Kala, the eternal time. Vidya, by the influence of. To, but. Mayayam, in the external energy. Gunamayam, in the qualitative modes of nature. Sorry. Adoksaja, the transcendence. Purushena, by the Purusha incarnation. Atma-bhutena, with the plenary expansion of the Lord. Viryam, the seeds of the living entities. Adata, impregnated. Viryavan, the supreme living being. Translation. The supreme living being, in his feature as a transcendental Purusha incarnation, who is the Lord's plenary expansion, impregnates the material nature of three modes, and thus, by the influence of eternal time, the living entities appear. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The offspring of any living being is born after the father impregnates the mother with semen, and the living entity floating in the semen of the father takes the shape of the mother's form. Similarly, Mother Material Nature cannot produce any living entity from her material elements unless and until she is impregnated with living entities by the Lord Himself. That is the mystery of the generation of the living entities. This impregnating process is performed by the first Purusha incarnation, Karanardhana Vashai Vishnu. Simply by his glance over material nature, the whole matter is accomplished. We should not understand the process of impregnation by the personality of Godhead in terms of our conception of sex. The omnipotent Lord can impregnate just by his eyes, and therefore he is called all-potent. Each and every part of his transcendental body can perform each and every function of the other part. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 532. Anganiyasya sakalendriya vrittimanti. In Bhagavad Gita 13.3 also, the same principle is confirmed. Mamayonir Mahabrahma tasmin garbham dadamyaham. When the cosmic creation is manifested, the living entities are directly supplied from the Lord. They are never products of material nature. Thus, no scientific advancement of material science can ever produce a living being. That is the whole mystery of the material creation. The living entities are foreign to matter, and thus they cannot be happy unless they are situated in the same spiritual life as the Lord. The mistaken living being, out of forgetfulness of the original of this original condition of life, unnecessarily wastes time trying to become happy in the material world. The whole Vedic process is to remind one of the essential feature of life. The Lord offers the conditioned soul a material body for his so-called enjoyment. But if one does not come to his senses and enter into spiritual consciousness, the Lord again puts him in the unmanifesting condition as it is existed in the beginning of the creation. The Lord is described here as Viryavan, or the greatest potent being, because he impregnates material nature with innumerable living entities who are conditioned from time immemorial. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyanajana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dhyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Kadamayan Dadati Swapadam Tikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagajatam Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamcha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paskachade Jatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mokom ko divachalam, bangum langayate grim, yakrita kraptamaham bande shigu dejatarinam. The Supreme Living Being, in his feature of the transcendental Purusha incarnation, with the Lord's plenary expansion, impregnates the material nature of three modes, and thus, by the influence of Veternita, the living entities appears. So, there's so much to this verse and purport. I think like we could speak about the content of the verse and purport probably for the whole month and still have so much to say. So there's so many places I can go, and we'll see where we will go. But it's basically about the journey of the soul, and it's Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Jiva Bhagavan Jiva Go Krishna Prashadipai Bhaktilata Beach. But Brahmanda Brahmite Kona. It's like the living entities we are constantly going around and around in different species of life. That's what we do. And then when it's time for devastation, then everything disappears. And those souls that are still of desire, material desire, a desire to enjoy separated from the Lord, then they are become unmanifested, and they unwind, they rewind or unwind, rewind. They are put back inside the body of the Mahavishnu. That's a Mahavishnu. So the Mahavishnu is a plenary expansion of Krishna. There is many different ways that's happened. Krishna is in Goloka Vrindavan. He's always enjoying with his eternal associate, the cowherd boys and copies and eating gulab jamun, whatever he does there, smelling the flower, having a perfect places to enjoy his pastime. So that's where Krishna is. So Krishna doesn't really get his hand dirty with the material creation. However, he, out of his will, he expands himself. He expands himself like we can say the president of United States or the president of France. They are caring for the people who are going to do things against the law. They are caring for them, but they don't get involved. It's not like the president of United States get involved in the creation of the prison house. He's not getting involved in the management of the prison house. He's not involved with the prisoner. He's not. It's just like his expansion, his primary expansion. There is maybe a minister of justice. We can say, okay, that's a primary expansion. And then the expansion of the expansion of the expansion that create places where a prisoner can go. Prisoner can go and without the direct involvement of the president of the state. So similarly, Krishna, he out of his free will, he expands himself, and his expansion, plenary expansion, we come to, through different level of expansion, we come to the Purusha avatar. And the Purusha avatar, Purusha means controller. So Purusha avatars, they are in control, really, control of the cosmic manifestation. It's, dear Govinda yesterday, dear Govinda Prabhu yesterday was sharing how, we can imagine the God that most religion worship is probably one of the Purusha avatar. Either the Purusha avatar with in control of all the cosmic manifestation, Mahavishnu, Karna Shaya Vishnu, or the one that is predominating our universe. Probably that's where people go, because it's difficult to go beyond our universe. It's so difficult to go beyond our little earth. So maybe Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, maybe he is God, he's definitely God. Is Vishnu Tattva, so is God. So to worship Mahavishnu, to worship Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And then the third expansion is Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, with an expansion that's everywhere, on every atom inside our heart, in the heart of our heart. So also a form of God. So whatever form of God we are worshipping is going to get fruits. There will be any form of God, we get fruit. And in Vaishnavism, we get to worship Krishna, the source of all God, of all the form of God, of all emanation of God. And so those are expansion of God to fulfill the desire of the living entity who decide, I don't want to make Krishna happy anymore. I don't want Krishna to be in the center. Because the living entities are emanation of Krishna out of his desire to enjoy. Then there is Ananda Buddhivardhanam, like Ananda, it's always Ananda Mayobhya Sat. There is enjoyment is at the core. At the core of everything there is enjoyment. And enjoyment, whose enjoyment? Krishna. Krishna's enjoyment. And every time Krishna wants to enjoy, like when we want to enjoy, we need to work very hard, isn't it? If we want to enjoy vacation, we need to go to work like 40 hours a week, and then save money, save vacation time. It's so much work. But for Krishna, when he wants to enjoy, is instantaneous. There is no, instantaneously everything, all his enjoyment manifests, and he manifests in expanding himself. That's how every time you have a desire for enjoyment, then whatever is desire, specific enjoyment desire, like manifest out of him. Like there is no difference for Krishna. There is no difference between his desire and his reality. For us, there is a lot of difference, and that's quite create the frustration in the material world because there's such a gap between desire and reality. It's like that gap is always there. But for Krishna, there is no gap. There is no gap. And so he expands all the time, and he expands also in his separated part and parcel. And his separated part and parcel, he expands and he gives them the choice. You're expanding, you're there to give me happiness, and you come from me. It's me. And every time we see a spirit soul, anyone, anything around us that's alive, it's alive because the presence of the soul. Only the soul is alive, really, because the body is dead. A tree is dead matter, made of a lot of earth, and our body is dead. So only the soul is alive. And in the Bhagavad Gita, I said that the soul cannot be burned, it cannot be cut, it cannot be destroyed by anything, any weapon. It's impossible to destroy the imperishable soul. And it's all pervading. And so that eternal life also have free will. That eternal life, separated part and parcel of Krishna, has free will. And of course, Krishna doesn't give some things that we are not going to use, or that some of us will not use, like that any citizen of America have free will, 100% free will to follow the rule and laws of the state, of the road, of, or not. And some people have with the free will, they use their free will to be good citizens, to be good people, to pay their tax, to do charity. And some people with their free will, they choose to steal, rob, murder. That's their free will. And so, of course, the result is not the same. If I use my free will to be a good citizen, and then I will have a lot of privilege. The privilege to go wherever I go, the privilege of using the road, using everything the government provide for the citizen. And if I choose to go against the laws, then I will lose those privilege. Like privilege and responsibilities. That's something we study in parenting. There is a very important parenting principle here, that the balance of privilege and responsibility. And so for us, it's the same, and Krishna gives us that. And so there's so many places I could go. Anyway, Parampara Prabhu, he regularly asks me to do a group coaching session. And so I try to be creative in a group coaching session. And the last one I did, I wanted to include a closed eye exercise. And I'm glad I didn't, because already we had not enough time to share everything I wanted to share. But I'm thinking to go to the closed eye exercise now, if you want to, because it's so appropriate. You just follow what Prabhupada is saying in his purport. So if you can close your eyes. Close your eyes. It's very, very short. Just close your eyes and imagine yourself landing in a semen of a man. You're landing there. And like imagine that's where you're landing. And where are you coming from? Where is that seed of life, existence of life coming from? And then that sperm is ending in the ovula of a woman. And with no effort on your side, material nature starts to organize itself around you. It starts to organize itself around you, cell by cell, and one cell creating more cells, because life comes from life. And there is so many cells developing all around you. and with no material effort on your side, your body develops. Your body takes shape, the shape of your mother, it's said, the form of your mother. Maybe it's a mother dog, maybe it's a mother human being, whatever. You're seeing the body is developing all around you. And life is there, and life always was there. And life is always who you are. You are life. Your life before birth, your life before creation, before the creation of that body, and you will be always life. And then the lungs appear, the stomach, the digestive system, and you are fed by material nature in the form of your mother's tube, whatever it's called, umbilical tube, and 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 then you appear in the body of a baby, a newborn baby, and your life in that baby. But you have no power to do anything. You cannot even hold your head. You have no power to feed yourself. You have no power to move anywhere. You are completely dependent in that form. The form is dependent on the mother's or the father's will. So that's our position in the material energy. As long as we are identified with material nature, the difference between matter and spirit is matter is completely dependent, while spirit is independent. It's not depending on anything external. So when you're growing up, and then you can go back to today. It's just a very short, because we can read that the offspring of any living entity is born after the father impregnate the mother with semen. And then we can really oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? That means that at one point or another, me, the living entity, had the shape of a sperm. And we can discuss maybe life after life. We can discuss that maybe there was no life before that. But the body changed. At one point, I was in the form of a sperm. At one point, I was in the form of a few cells. And that's the truth. And we cannot discuss that. There is a change of body. The change of body is right there in the creation of our present body. Of course, Tehinos Menyatadehe, Kaumahamyo Vanamjara, Tata Dehantara Praptir, Diras Tata Namoyati. As an embodied soul constantly do that, from the sperm to a few cells, a blob, blob, blob. And then like that, the form is shaping with arms and legs and head, and then internal organs. So we are changing body, and we did change a lot during those time of gestation. Yeah, we can see larvae. Like, I have a compost pile outside, and I don't know how it's created, but I put compost in, I put my scrap from the kitchen, and sometimes there is worms coming out of that, and the worms transform their body into flies. There is no flies, but there is worms, and then so the changing of body is right there. And so I wanted us to have a little experience. So to prepare for the class, what I just did, I went to one book. It's called Life Comes From Life. And it's such a fun book. I encourage it all. Takes time with life come from life. It's a series of Prabhupada's morning walk, and he's speaking with a professor, and then he's speaking about life come from life, and he's speaking in such a fun way. He has so much humor. So I'm thinking that maybe we can read a few examples from that, a few places. And I like to read the whole book with you. That will be super fun, but we are not going to do that. So one thing I notice, so I will read and we'll see where we end up. But This is a universe in the atom. So I'm doing Qigong. And my teacher, he speaks a lot about the small universe. And I was thinking, oh, it's probably a Buddhist thing. But I noticed that everything in Buddhism, everything like mindfulness, the source of it is in the Veda. The source of it is in the Bhagavad Gita. The source of it in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is called the universe in the atom. So Prabhupada, there is different question by one of his disciples. He said, the creation of the material universe is like the growth of a great banyan tree from a tiny seed. No one can see the tree within the seed. When we have a seed of a banyan tree, there is a living entity here. There is one living entity that's going to change so much that is becoming like this huge tree. So no one can see the tree within the seed. But all the necessary ingredients for the tree are there, including the required intelligence. Actually, everyone's body is simply a sample universe. Your body and my body are different universes, small universes. Therefore, all 8 material elements are present within our bodies, just as they are within the whole universe. Similarly, an insect's body is another universe. So small universes, and we are in the universe, and the universe is in our body, and the universe and I combine together. That's it. The universe is made of 8 elements, 5 gross and 3 subtle elements, and this body is a small universe made of 5 gross and 3 subtle elements, and the universe made of those elements, and I, the soul, I, the living entity, I, life, the only life that exists, combine with those 8 elements, and that creates our conditioned state, according to our material desire, really. Nothing to be proud of. So this, and then the question is, how about the atom? Sounds intelligent, huh? The same formula applies. All these constituents are within the atom. Anaranyanya Mahato Mayam, Kata Upanishad 1-20. This means that whether something is extremely large or infinitesimal, it is still made of the same basic elements. This is true everywhere in the material world, just as a woman's small watch has all the requisite machinery for a smooth functioning, so an ant has all the necessary brain substance to manage its affair nicely. So there is intelligence in an ant to manage its affair nicely. And the ant come as a seed of like the seed of, I don't know how ant, like they have eggs, whatever, there is eggs out there. The mommy ants, she put her eggs, and then the daddy ants come and fertilize the eggs. I'm not sure how it goes, but something like that. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing, the impregnation of the living entity. So let's remember that us, the life force, we also entered as an ant, as a lizard, as a fish, and we are the life force that never change. So how is this possible? To answer this properly, you must minutely examine the brain tissues in the ant. Why don't you examine the brain tissue in the ant? But this you cannot do. Moreover, there are innumerable insects smaller than the ant, so there must be a mechanical arrangement for all this detailed activity, but scientists cannot discover it. So it goes after the scientists quite a lot in this book. And then I just want to read a little bit of the material modes because Srila Prabhupada's, because of the purport. So Darwinism extant. That's the title. Darwinism extant. We want to extend Darwinism because it doesn't make any sense. Srila Prabhupada later, I don't know if we will get to it, but he said our body are like apartments and we are renting and we are paying for apartments. So if I have an apartment, then if I make a nice living, then I get, maybe at the beginning I get a studio, and then maybe after I work harder and I get more money and I get a 1-bedroom apartment and then a 2-bedroom apartment. And Prabhupada says the analogy he takes is that the earning money or the working out to earn money, we can see the money as karma. The karma is the money. So we work hard, we accumulate good karma, then we'll maybe have, like a 5-bedroom apartment. But it's not that the 5-bedroom apartment was originally a studio. That by itself, because of my work, transformed into 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 5-bedroom, like that. So Darwinism is that one apartment transformed into a mansion. And that doesn't really make sense because matter is inert. Remember, there is no life in matter. Matter is inert and needs to be impregnated by life that is eternal. And matter is subject to changes, always change. Our body always change, but we never change. 6 changing, like birth, growth, maintenance, and then it reproduces itself, and then dwindling, and then death. Yeah, and that's all around us. Like I go to the forest a lot, and there is so much deadness in the forest, and in that deadness there is so much life. Like when we see a dead tree, Prabhupada said, we see a dead tree. So the dead tree doesn't have leaves anymore, but all the chemicals of the tree are there. And he says to the scientists, if you are able to make a life, why don't you bring back the life to that tree? All the chemicals that were there when the tree was alive are there. And in fact, Prabhupada said also, and now there is so many living entities in that tree. There is ants, there is worms, there is so many things that are living in the tree. But the tree is the soul that was inhabiting that tree to create life, to create the material life, which is those 6 senses have departed. Anyway, this material world is a composition of 3 qualities: Sattva, Raja, and Tamas, goodness, passion, and ignorance, which are working everywhere. These 3 qualities are present in various proportions in all species of life. For example, some trees produce nice fruits, while others are simply meant for fuel. This is due to the association of particular qualities of nature. Among animals also, these 3 qualities are present. The cow is in a quality of goodness, the lion in passion, and the monkey is in ignorance. According to Darwin, Darwin's father is a monkey. He has theorized foolishly. So that's Prabhupada's humor. And okay, now another humoristic part. Just because I like to have fun with Prabhupada. Yeah. And so Srila Prabhupada is saying, in my body there are millions of living entities. In my intestines there are many worms. If they become strong, then whatever I eat, they eat. And I derive no benefit from the food. Therefore those who are full of hookworms eat very much but do not grow. They become lean and thin, and they are very hungry because those small living entities are eating their food. So there are thousands and millions of living entities in my body, and they are individual. And I am an individual, but I am the proprietor of the body, just as I may be the proprietor of a garden, and in which many millions of living entities reside. So that's a small universe. There is millions of living entities in our body, living cells, living entities in our bodies, and that's a small universe. So we can, by that small universe, we can also kind of have an idea of the bigger universe with all the living entities and all the planets and all the planetary system and all the different universe. Anyway, so it continues. A student say, so if I eat Krishna Prasad, food offered to Lord Krishna, are the living entity in my body also eating Prasad? What a great question, isn't it? And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, you are very benevolent. Just by eating. You take Krishna Prasad for others. The students say, oh, if I eat Prasad, like I do Sankirtan, does that count? Because there is millions of living entities in this small universe, and just eat Prasadam, and then I serve so many living entities and say, yes, you're very benevolent. Yes, you take Krishna Prasad for others, it's humor, it's like, you take Krishna Prasad for others. Yes.
From compassion.
And then one of the students said, welfare work. And Prabhupada said, yes, but there are so many things within you for them to eat that you do not need to take a separate endeavor to feed them. And, oh, okay. So there's so many things here. So it's like, so Dr. Singh, it's Dr. Singh is with him, The Origin of Nature. There is a scientific journal called Nature. It contains articles concerning natural products like plants, flowers, and minerals, but it does not mention God. Srila Prabhupada. We may rightly observe that plants are being produced by nature, but the next question we must ask is, who has produced nature? To us, this is real intelligence, Dr. Sings. They don't generally think about this. Srila Prabhupada. Then they are foolish. Where does nature come from? As soon as we speak of nature, the next question should be, whose nature? Is it not so? For instance, I speak of my nature, and you speak of your nature. My nature is blah, blah, blah. Your nature is whatever. Therefore, as soon as we speak of nature, the next inquiry should be, whose nature? Nature means energy. And as soon as we speak of energy, we must inquire into the source of that energy. For example, if you speak of electric energy, you must accept its source, the powerhouse. How can you deny? Electricity does not come to us automatically. Similarly, nature is not working automatically. It is under the control of Krishna. Oh, there's so much. There's so much I'd like to continue reading. It's such a fun book. So anyway, I encourage you go to Life Come From Life. It's a wonderful book if you speak to help you gather argument, gather logic and argument to express about Krishna consciousness. Because some people, they won't accept Bhagavad Gita. They want logic and argument. So this is full of logic and argument from Srila Prabhupada. He speak about like, he speak about the parts of the purport. There is the living entity are foreign to matter, and they cannot be happy unless they are situated in the same spiritual life as the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he speak about that. So we often, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of a fish. A fish belongs to water, is made to be in water. It's made to enjoy water. But somehow, some fish, they think like they see human being out and they have party on the beach and they seem to really have fun and it's thinking like, I don't want to enjoy in the ocean. All the fish are here and why I'm enjoying in ocean, and it's jump out of the ocean thinking like I'm going to receive everything. And the thing is that even if we give a fish a huge bank account, millions of dollars in a bank account, and we give the fish a boat, and we give a fish a huge mansion, beautiful fishes around, girls that are in love with the fish, and we give the fish succulent food, everything a fish can desire, the fish is not going to be happy. The fish is going to flap and die. And that's like that. Prabhupada said, we are looking for water in the desert. We are looking for water in the desert. And we are looking everywhere for water where there is no water. And our water is spiritual energy, because we are this infinitesimal life force, life energy that's indestructible, that's not going anywhere. And so as long as we try to enjoy ourselves separated from our spiritual energy, everything is going to be a waste of time. It's going to be a waste of time, even if we succeed having a big bank account. This bank account is going to be taken away. Or this bank account, when we have it finally, we are going to realize I'm still so dissatisfied. Isn't it? So many we see in the life of people who become really, really famous, rock star or movie star. So many of them, they end up in psychiatric hospital. But if being famous is the goal of life, what they were seeking for, how come they need drugs? How come they need to do so many perverted things to find happiness? Since they already receive happiness, they are famous. It's because no matter how much we receive or create, we are not going to be happy because we are fish outside of the water. We are not in our water. So Prabhupada said, this mistaken living entity, out of forgetfulness of his original condition of life, unnecessarily wastes time trying to become happy in the material world. The whole Vedic process is to remind one of his essential feature, this essential feature of life. The Lord offers a conditioned soul a material body for his so-called enjoyment. But if one does not come to his senses and enter spiritual consciousness, the Lord again puts him in an unmanifested condition as it existed in the beginning of creation. So at the beginning of creation, all those living entities who didn't finish their term, in a sense, it's like we can imagine like prison house becoming like all broken, and then the prisoner like absorbed in a government, in a governor or in a president or the Ministry of Justice, and then when it's time to have a new government, then they all manifest and they are put back in a prison because they didn't finish their term, because they didn't finish what they are supposed to do. So for us is that Srila Prabhupada urges us, become urgent, make it back, make it that it's your life, last life, entangled in a material energy, entangled under the three modes of material nature. Make it your last life. How to do that? Srila Prabhupada give us the do and the don't. The do is chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. At least 16 rounds a day. That's Prabhupada's program. He took the responsibility for that. He said, okay, I take responsibility, like so much. The Christian theology is about Jesus taking responsibility, like owning responsibility for, okay, you believe in me, I take care of you. And Srila Prabhupada says the same. Like previously, we needed to chant 64 rounds. Prabhupada said, okay, at least 16, and I take responsibility for you. Also, stay away from sinful activity, because the sinful activity is like, it's putting wood in the fire of material existence. It's putting more wood in the fire of material existence. So if you're trying to put put water to chanting, but at the same time you put wood, then your fire is not going to be extinguished. So he's protecting us, is don't do that, because if you do that, it's going to be difficult. No matter how much you chant, the fire of material existence is going to continue to burn you. Okay, I'm going to stop here, even so I could, we could go on and forever with this verse purport and this amazing book, Life Come From Life. But I want to have a conversation, discussion, and I'm going to read the verse. Kalavritya tu mayayam gunamayam adoksajaha purushenatma bhutena viryam adata viryavan. The Supreme Living Being in his feature as a transcendental Purusha incarnation with the Lord's plenary expansion impregnates the material nature of three material modes, and thus, by the influence of eternal time, the living entities appear. And we notice they appear. They are not born. They are not created. The living entity also appear and disappear, manifested and unmanifested. There is no birth. They are eternally conditioned. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Any comment, question, challenges? Where is my book? If not, we can read more.
I went on a walk today, and it's something that's right here. I went on a walk, and I ran into a devotee. I don't know him, but just from far away, he's handing me something as I'm going. And anyway, I thought I'd just show it. It's a card. It said, a little card. He said, "Fresh off the press." Anyway, so it has a mantra on the back, and then the other side a picture, and he said, this is his creation, I guess. It says, "Put reincarnation out of business."
Nice.
That's his
wonderful.
creative project. And then he has the image of the soul, traveling through, through all the stages, and then death, and then restarting again.
Transmigration
Transmigration of the soul.
Transmigration of the soul, changing body, and puts reincarnation out of business. That's so clever. Who gives the intelligence to that devotee? So clever. Anything else?
I'll just share something I heard from Prabhupada this morning along the lines of Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Just thought to share something I heard from Prabhupada this morning. It's humorous for me and relates to one of the themes of your class was the Vishnu, and the idea of and if we look at ourselves, we can see that all those propensities come from God. They're there, Janma, Yasya, Yata. What exists in the effect exists in the source. So Prabhupada was talking about Vishnu in the process of creation, and so he said, so you, he's talking to his audience, students, I guess. You like to go to the ocean and lie on your back and close your eyes, right? That's fun, right? He said that you enjoy that. Go to the ocean, just float on the water. So where does that come from? That comes from God. That propensity's in God.
So graphic.
Just thought to share.
So funny.
Yeah.
Yes. Because thank you for sharing that. So fun. So fun because Mahavishnu, Karanagakashayi Vishnu, is he floats. He's laying down, floating in Yoga Nidra, is floating in causal ocean, and so and then the causal ocean Mahatattva is agitated, by impregnation of the living entities. Hi, Lucas. Welcome.
Oh, hi, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anything else? Anyone would like to share?
Yesterday I read just a simple something from Prabhupada. I don't remember where I read it. I think it was Srimad Bhagavatam. But basically, like material life can make us forget our spiritual life, but also spiritual life can help us forget material life.
Oh, good.
And I thought that was exciting. Like, oh, I could start to forget those previous desires and distractions and those things that used to bring me joy. Like, what? Yeah. Anyway.
Very special, very special. Like material life definitely put us in ignorance, and we forget. That's why we are here. Is that we forget our constitutional position because of the material energy, material life. And then you heard Prabhupada say, like spiritual life can help us and more powerfully forget about material life, because material life is tiny. It's just like so tiny. It doesn't have any power. It's just like Dear Govinda was sharing at the end of the chapter 10. Krishna says, like, just a spark of Christ wonder. It's so puny, the material energy, the material. But because, sometimes we take an example of the tugboat. A tugboat, sometimes there is like big crew, like cruise ship or like big ship, and they come in a port, and there is a little tugboat that come, and the little tugboat, even so it's so small, they are tiny, they're just so tiny in comparison to the big ship, and it takes the boat to park the boat where the boat need to be parked. But if the big boat's engine were on, if the big boat with like mega engine in comparison to the tugboat were on, there is no way the tugboat could move that big boat anywhere. It will not have a chance. So it's like that in that analogy. The tugboat is a material energy. It's tiny, it's puny, it doesn't have any strength. The tugboat cannot even go in the ocean. It cannot go in the ocean because if you go in the ocean, it doesn't have the strength to fight the big ocean. And the boat, the liner or whatever it is, go and cross huge ocean all the time. But because the big boat, the liner, have this engine turned off, we have our intelligence turned off, that's engine, that's analogy, then the tugboat is taking us everywhere. Like the material energy is kind of like have us on a leash and we just follow around. Yeah. Thank you. Kim, I have a question, but I can't find an raise symbol. That's okay. You can speak, Kim. Yes.
Sorry. It's maybe a silly question, but I always wonder about it a little bit. So one thing that confuses me is when everything gets, drawn back into Krishna at the end of everything and then is unmanifest, I guess. I forget the words used. And then it comes back out. The thing that always confused me is because I always imagine at the end when everybody gets sucked back in, everybody gets sucked back in is really at a low level because they weren't able to get out of the material existence. So they were really, I don't know, I just always imagine really in a, low position. And yet when it all comes back out, if all you have is this really low positions of souls that have to start again, it's how do you have, any higher levels which seem to exist from the beginning? That's always confused me.
Okay, thank you. I love your question. Thank you. It's so stimulating. So at the time of annihilation, there is many time when everything gets destroyed. Like at the end of the life of Brahma, 4,300,000 years
Life of Brahma is 311
No,
billion.
the day of Brahma.
Then
Yeah, the day of Brahma.
4
4
billion.
billion. So at the end of the day of Brahma, you know, at the end of the day of, at the end of the life of Manu, at the end of the cycle, at the end, and so, but like what we were specifically speaking here is at the end of the life of Brahma. So when Brahma is done, Brahma is also a soul, is a living entity, and so at that time, then there is living entity everywhere in the universe and with different consciousness. Not all the living entities are in one form. At that time, there is demigods, and there is Brahma is there, and the demigods are there. There is all the heavenly planets are populated. All earthly medium planetary system are populated with human beings, with animals, with insect, with grass, with trees. All the lower planetary system are populated with sometimes very advanced uh, um, living entities which are atheist, completely atheist, and then the hellish region of the universe are also populated. So when at the end of the life of Brahma, there is living entity everywhere. In fact, one of the things Srila Prabhupada share in Life Come Come Life is living entities are everywhere. There is living entities on the sun. You know, from our point of view, we don't imagine that, but most people don't even imagine there is living entities in the tree. So there is a living entity on the moon. There is a living entity at different stages of their spiritual evolution and contamination and entanglement with the material energy. And so at that time, when everything wine in Mahavishnu, the living entities lose their external gross material body. However, they are still engaged in their subtle body. And their subtle body, and also the super soul is there, who keep track of their desire and activities, not from one life, but the whole accumulation. It's the intricacy of karma is very complicated to understand. Someone can be, you know, visiting one species of life in one lifetime to burn one type of karma, and then, you know, like a demigod, or, you know, like it's not necessarily linear what's happened to the living entities. It's complicated. It's the intricacy of karma, Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, is very, very difficult to understand. So when the end of the life of Brahma happened, when the time is the time that Mahavishnu in hell, then all those universe enter into Mahavishnu. Of course, his inhalation lasts for billions of years too, but that's another. It's just different dimension of time. Time is relative. So the time of our inhalation, exhalation is different than a dog inhalation, exhalation, and ant. And similarly, the time of inhalation and exhalation of Mahavishnu is also different. So during his inhalation, all the universes wine in again Mahavishnu, and it corresponds the death of Brahma, like the end of that soul being in the Brahma. And then all those souls, they are inside Mahavishnu and in contact with their karma, their whole history of deserve and desire and deserve, and that doesn't leave them. So when creation happens again, and the Mahavishnu breathes out all those universes, you know, like that, and infuse the spirit into the material energy. All those spirits that are infused, they are infused with their history, with their karma, with their deserve and desire. And some of them at the end of the life of Brahma, they were ready to have the form of a dog, or some of them were ready to have the form of a demigod, and some are ready to have demigods falling or into Satya Yuga on Earth. So that's to respond to your question. I could go on and on. It's so exciting, but I want to check with you. How does that go for you?
Yeah, so what had me confused was that I always heard at the end when that was going to happen, the Earth planet, the beings on the Earth planet, the humans would have gotten down to such a low level of existence. But that's just the Earth planet. So at the time of annihilation or being brought back in, there's so many other universes and planets that wouldn't have gotten to that really awful, place that the Earth planet had gotten into. Am I right?
Well, from my understanding, what you describe is at the end of Mahayuga, at the end of the Mahayuga, at the end of Kali Yoga. And my understanding is the end of Brahma's life is not necessarily at the end of Kali Yoga. But at the end of Kali Yoga, human being on earth are so godless. There is no hope for any enlightenment. In fact, now we are in Kali Yuga for the last 5,000 years. And then there was a golden age that started 500 years ago with advent of Lord Chaitanya. And that golden age is supposed to last for 10,000 years. And 10,000 years is nothing with the length of Kali Yuga, which is 430,000 years. So after the 10,000 years is over, so 430,000 minus
5,000.
minus 10,000. Well, okay, like 400,000 years more, where the enlightenment of human being is going to dwindle to a place like it will be animalistic life and only animalistic life on a human. And then at the end of Kali Yuga, then Kalki come and destroy everyone and everything is annihilated. And then there is the start of Satya Yuga again. And the start of Satya Yuga doesn't start with those souls that were embodied as human beings on earth at the end of the Kali Yuga. Those souls are going to be reformed, maybe in lower planetary system or in a lower species of life.
Okay, so the end of Kali Yuga isn't the end of where everybody gets pulled back in to Mahavishnu. Am I saying that right? So
Yeah.
I was equating them, but it's not the same time period and it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. That's why there's many partial devastation. There is so many devastation, and that's why in the Bible, they speak about devastation. Which one? There is some partial devastation at the end of Mahayuga. There is partial devastation at the end of Manu, which is 72 cycle of Mahayuga, of 4 yugas. There is and there is 14 Manus in a day of Brahma. So at the end of each Manu, there is devastation. At the end of Brahma, there is partial devastation of most of the universe, but not the upper planetary system, because Lord Brahma and the demigods are still alive by them. And then only, like that. So the scale of time is almost inconceivable for our little brains.
Right. Okay, thank you. That doesn't all make more sense. As much as it can make sense, it makes more sense to me. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Bhakti Oasis. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mother Malini. Thank you for this beautiful discourse this morning. So much nutrients, so much dense information, very rich, fertile ground. I'm curious, you've awakened my curiosity here. How does the Brahma Yoti fit into what we've been discussing this morning? Are those souls that are trying to merge, with the impersonal form of the Lord in the spiritual sky and kind of separated from the material machinations during their visit to the Brahmayoti. I'm just curious how that fits in. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So I appreciate. So there is a Viraj River, which is a causal ocean, which is in between the spiritual world and the material world. But in the spiritual world, at the entrance of the spiritual world, the Brahmajyoti is the effulgence of Krishna. And really everything reposes in the Brahmanoti, in that effulgence of the Lord. And that effulgence of the Lord is made of particles of life. And so when the impersonalists succeed at their attempt to, which is very rare, very difficult, very cumbersome, the whole Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said to Arjuna, this is really difficult. Don't even try it because, in Kali Yoga it's impossible. But let's say a yogi or an impersonalist or someone who meditate is capable to get liberation from a material body, basically. Come to a place like there is no more entanglement. I'm not entangled, I'm not attached, I'm not desiring, I'm a clean slate. Then that clean slate, it's like coming back to being a soul, being a bright soul. And the size of the soul is 1/10,000 of a tip of a hair. So if we take a hair and then we cut it 10,000 times, that's the size of that bright, effulgent essence of existence. So that is the Brahmajyoti. The Brahmajyoti is made of those bright souls. However, because the nature of the soul is to be attached, because the nature of the soul is, the origin of the soul is Dharma, service, because the soul is naturally in a relationship, because we are originally in a relationship with Krishna. Sooner or later, those souls that are liberated and floating in a Brahmajyoti, they are going to develop desire. And most of them, it's explained in the Bhagavad Gita, they fall back down in a material pool. And Prabhupada shares that often those souls that will fall back down in a material pool, if they come as human beings, then they do altruism work or something like that. But basically it's like floating, because we are made to attach. So we can attach to material nature and have material form, or we can attach to spiritual nature and have spiritual form. But living without a form is not natural for us, because we are Satchitananda Vigraha. We have a form. We are supposed to have a form. So it's, in the sense, the Brahmajyoti is just the entrance of the spiritual world. The spiritual world also have a cosmology. There is a cosmology, like there is Goloka Vrindavan, which most of the spiritual world, 3/4, and then there is all the Vaikuntha planet, and then there is, like the Brahmajyoti kind of in between, and then there is the Viraj River, which is the causal ocean, and then there is all the universe like that. So that's my understanding of what's happened to those souls who are successful achieving liberation. And it's not impossible that from liberation they go to Krishna. Like, in fact, there is liberated soul, embodied spirit, liberated soul who have a form of human, like Sukadev Goswami and the 4 Kumaras. They were completely liberated, so they were not under the rules or regulation, under the mode of material nature. They were liberated in the Brahmajyoti. And just by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, smelling the fragrance of tulasi that have been offered to the Lord, then they came back to, like, satisfying the core desire of the soul, which is to serve and to be in a loving relationship with Krishna.
Hi, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I'm glad you can speak and you don't look too bad.
By His grace, I'm trying. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other question or comments? Addition? Okay. Thank you all for being here. And remember, life comes from life.
Yes, it
If
does.
you want to have like logical arguments about the soul and what is the soul, where the soul go, there's so many fascinating parts. There is a part about mystic power. And Srila Prabhupada said, and those scientists, they don't see mystic power. They see like a cow will eat grass and produce milk. That's mystic power. And he said, you can take to your lab as much grass as you want and try to create milk from the grass. It's just a very, very funny book.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Prantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol.